With an ease I envied, he'd slipped into the crowd and disappeared. I sighed in defeat as I trudged to my car parked a few blocks away, wondering if this was ever going to work. Kade had shown up at my door a couple of weeks ago, declaring that if I was going to be of any worth as an investigator, I needed to be trained. Well, that's putting it more delicately. His exact words had been, "You need to be trained before you really fuck something up, end up dead, or both." How could I say no? In truth, I'd been excited and nervous about my new job as investigator for the law firm of Kirk and Trent. I'd worked there as a runner, delivering documents, until Kade had given me an abrupt promotion right before Christmas. I guess you could call him a silent partner in the firm. So far, the training had included time at the firing range with my new gun, courtesy of Kade, daily early morning runs, also courtesy of Kade, self-defense classes with a Marine, and these impromptu lessons that had no name. I ached all over from hitting the mat too many times in the self-defense lessons, dreaded the morning runs like a condemned man awaiting execution, and had only done so-so on what I privately thought of as the cloak and dagger training. The only place I'd held my own was the firing range. Not for the first time, I wondered if this was a job I could actually do. I unlocked the door and climbed inside my black Lexus SUV, a company car paid for by the firm. 20 minutes later, I was back at my apartment. I lived on the top floor of a 2-story apartment building near downtown, in a neighborhood where people didn't walk their dogs after dark, at least not alone. When I'd first moved to Indianapolis almost a year ago, this had been the best I could afford. Even then, I'd had to work 2 jobs just to make rent and pay the bills. I was a runner for the law firm during the day and bartender at night at the Drop. Luckily, my new promotion meant an increase in salary, and I'd been able to quit the bartending gig. I hurriedly showered, pinning my long strawberry blonde hair up so it wouldn't get wet. There wasn't enough time for me to blow it dry before Blane arrived. My heart beat a little faster as I thought of Blane, anticipation making my stomach flutter. Blane Kirk, high-powered lawyer, former Navy SEAL, rich playboy, my ex-boyfriend. One of those labels didn't seem to fit with the others. Our introduction had been less than what romance novels were made of, consisting as it had of my tripping and falling face first into his lap during a client meeting. I still cringed when I thought about it. We'd broken up before Christmas, after I'd found him in a clutch with his former girlfriend, Candy with an I. What I hadn't known then, what Blane didn't tell me until later, was that he'd suspected her of being the leak behind repeated attempts on my life. He'd thought that by breaking up with me and dating her, he'd be able to keep me safe. That hadn't worked out so well. Since then, Blane had been courting me, for lack of a better word, in an attempt to win me back. I'd been leery of jumping back into a relationship, even though I knew I was in love with him. His list of ex-girlfriends was as long as my arm, both my arms, actually, and I had no interest in having my heart broken a second time. Yet those reservations hadn't stopped me from going out with him, spending time with him, kissing him. It seemed no matter my resolve, I was helpless when it came to Blane. My phone rang just as I was checking the clock. Blane was a few minutes late, which was unlike him. "Hello?"
"Kat, it's me,"
Blane said. Kat, that's me. At least that's what Blane calls me. My full name is Kathleen Turner, and yes, I was named that on purpose. My father, Ted Turner, and my grandmother, Tina Turner, were only too happy to pass on the family tradition of naming a kid after a famous Turner. Since I had no brothers, it was up to my only cousin to carry on the dubious honor. Not that I knew if he would, since I hadn't heard from him in years. "Hey," I said, sinking down onto my leather couch. If he was calling rather than knocking at my door, it couldn't be good news.
"I'm sorry, Kat, but I'm going to have to cancel our date."
I held in a sigh. "That's okay," I replied, keeping my tone light. No need for him to know how disappointed I was.
"I have to leave town for a few days. Something's come up."
A slight stiffness to his words made me